Alright, welcome to the last section of creating a fantasy image. So, while you were getting lunch and such, I went in, I put in all this energy work for the body there, and if you look at all my layers here, you can see I got a lot of layers going on in there, all the different blend modes. So what I want to do now is I want to create a more ethereal look. So to do that, we're going to have her transforming in and out of reality. So for that effect, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my background layer. I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of it, and then I'm going to turn my original one off, and then Shift Control E to merge visible. Now I still have this all saved on my hard drive, so if I really mess up, you can go back to that as my fail safe. So what I have now, I still got my main one there if I ever need to go back to that, but what I got is I got just the background and I got the finished thing right in front of it. So what we're going to do is one of the things you can do is you can go through, see if there are any blend modes that look kind of cool. Well, that kind of looks cool there for the face and everything. Soft light, hard light, again looks kind of neat for the face. These are getting a little too contrasty, pen light, and they're getting a little. So what I look at, and I kind of like that hard light look, but only for the face area. I don't like what it's doing down for the rest of the body. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that. I'm going to come down to the one below it, turn the one with the hard light, and put this one back to normal. Then going to add in a layer mask. Now to be going in and out of reality, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the brush tool with our layer mask. Set to black. We're going to take the opacity down to about 20%, and we're going to just kind of fade her out so that it looks like she's forming. I'm kind of basing this off of how I've been reading about at the quantum level. Things can and can't exist at the same time. Not really sure where they are or what they're doing, so her fading in and out of reality is kind of a cool concept that I like. Now we're going to have to go down here and get the breakaway pieces too. And the reason I'm not doing this as a general opacity is because I want little variations on how quickly things are fading in and out. So it's an unevenness. If I wanted everything faded in and out at the same amount, I would just go with an opacity change on the layer. But this gives me the opportunity to decide exactly where I want things to fade in and out of. Okay, so now we're going to turn that layer back on. See, if I turn that layer off, so I get a better look on the face. If I turn that, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back to this layer and we're going to go with the 100%. We're going to blend that out. Now we're going to come to that top layer, which is that hard light. Put a layer mask on it. And where it's just too much, we're getting too much saturation, we're getting too contrasty, it's standing out too much, it's not giving us that feeling. So I'm going to go down to 70%. Go ahead and take up a little more space here. Zoom down a little bit, and we'll start to blend these out. Now I'm going to leave that over here to be a little darker, so I'll nope, didn't want to do that, so Control Z to undo that one, or we can go back to our history. Go back just where I wanted it to be. So we can take that out up there. Go down to 20% opacity and just fade that so it's a little more natural vignette looking. If I turn that on and off, I can see where I'm adding it into. I really like that look of everything fading in. I do have a couple of little stars here that are kind of distracting right around the nose. So we'll go to our background layer, grab our spot healing brush. We'll get rid of the distracting ones. There we go. And now what we got is we got this really kind of cool looking piece. This guy. Go back to our brush tool. A little smaller, X to paint back in. Paint that a little bit more solid. There we go. Perfect. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look to see if there's anything that we want to eliminate. We got a little dark line there. We got a little white line right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate this image. And that way I got fail safe to go back to. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go ahead and flatten visible, merge visible. So I can come in and I can do some fine tuning on all of this stuff to blend it through. One of the best ways to do that is with our spot healing brush. I can come in here. I'm using the Wacom tablet so I can be a little pressure sensitive instead of the mouse, and that allows me to go in there and just hit these lines. Since she's coming in and out of reality and is energy based, we don't really want super hard lines. Come in here. We'll just clean up, blend through a couple of spots, get rid of these hardness. There we go. Right along the chin there. We'll take a look. We'll find a couple of spots here that are just peeking through. Get the hardness off the ear line there. It's there, but it's a little more in line with what we want. Go back, give it a final look. Looks good. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to add just a little bit of smoothness right here through the face. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and copy it twice, Control J, Control J. Turn my top one off. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to come up to Filter, Blur, Surface Blur. Bring this down just a little bit. Come on, Surface Blur, you can do it. Alright, so what we've got here is now we've got the skin textured blurred. come up to this one. We're going to go ahead and make a layer mask on it. Invert the layer mask to hide all. Come in with the brush tool. Go to a little bit lower brush. We're on white to paint back in. Go to 30%. We're just going to go ahead and smooth the tones on the face out. And the skin here, down here a little bit. This takes just a little while to do. We get a nice smoothness going here. That looks good down there. We're going to go up a little bit bigger here. Brush. Smooth that out. And we do have a few areas where it is still a little rough, so we'll come over to our regular one, to our image, go to the blur tool, blur out those little rough spots. That looking pretty nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to merge those two together. Now I'm going to take that layer, move it back to my original, overlay it. Now when I turn that off, okay, why are you doing that? Put it in there nice so it lines up. Turn that layer off. Turn that layer off. See, I can get the. I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. I'm going to try a few little blend modes. I'm not liking any of the blend modes. So we're just going to put a little layer mask on there. Brush. Go down to 20%. Black to paint out. There we go. So we get this nice, cool looking, kind of there, kind of not. Now the final step that I always do, I'm going to make a new layer, and we're going to call it DB for dodge burn. We're going to set our blend mode to soft light. Hit D to go back to the default of black and white for the brush. We're going to take it down to 10%. Exit to go to white. And what this is doing is we can add and subtract density to sculpt it out. If you go to X, that will give us the ability to make stuff darker. I can come in here fine-tune my look. A little smaller brush. X that, go to white. There we go. If you zoom out, then you can turn your dodge burn layer off. See how you can change the effect. So this is looking pretty good. Now the final step, what you can do, you can go back to our duplicate layer. We'll go ahead and undo that, get rid of that one layer. What we're going to do is we're going to look at this in our RGB. So if you hold Control 3, 4, and 5, you can look at it at RGB channels. You can see the contrast built into them. Now if we go up to Image, Mode, CMYK, don't merge, is a more contrasty color space. So if you go 3, 4, 5, and 6, following the Control key down, we can see the different contrast values. So what we can do is we can pick contrast values out that apply to what we want to create more contrast to. So this one looks kind of nice. That one looks, that one's a little too dark. So we're going to go with magenta. So Control A, select all, Control C, copy. Come back here. Go below our dodge burn layer. Control V to paste in. Set our blend mode to soft light. I can turn that dodge burn layer off again, see if it's too much. But then what we can do is this is going to add in a lot of detail and hyperness. So we're going to come up to blur, Gaussian. Take it up. There is no magic number. I can usually tell you it's between 15 and 20. For me it seems. We're going to blur it so that it's just brightness and darkness, no detail. So if we were to turn the layers off, we would see that we just get shadow and highlight detail. By doing that, you see how we can add a little more contrast into there. And it's the natural ones. Now, another neat trick you can do, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Hit Control I and invert it. And see, when we do that, you get a little different feel. You might like it, you might not. It's usually worth it a little attempt. So we're going to not invert it. But we do have some areas where it got a little too blown out. But over here we got a real nice richness coming through all of that. So we're just going to selectively decide that we don't want this area. We'll go to 60%, so we'll just say that's too bright. And we don't want that there. Just turn it on and off to decide where you want to control it. See if there's an area where it does look better without it. And then when you're all done, you're all done. My advice with any type of work like this is when you get it all finished and you think it's perfect, do a Control Shift Save to save as. We're going to call it version 2. Go ahead and save. That way you can always go back to the previous version if you decide you don't like it. And now wait a week before you do anything else with this. Let your mind get cleared out, your eyes used to not seeing it, and then when you look at it again you can see if you like it or not. If you don't like it, then you can make changes. If you like it, then you're all done, you're set to go and release it onto the world. So I invite you to join us again for some further adventures in Photoshopping. Thank you.